Hello, everyone. It is noon, and because I know that everyone is going to have questions for these gentlemen, I'd like to get moving along here, start at noon, as is the Hourglass fashion. So thanks so much for joining us today. Happy New Year to all of you. It is January. Can't believe 2020 is behind us, although 2021 has been eventful so far, to say the least. So I appreciate the three gentlemen here joining us. Josh Parsons, the chair of Lancaster County Commissioners, Ray D'Agostino, vice chair of the County Commissioners, and Craig Lehman as well, a county commissioner. So thank you, gentlemen, for being with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to start by thanking our sponsor for this forum, Rogers & Associates. They have been with us for a while and have signed on for another year, so we really appreciate their support in these forums. Thank you so much to them. We typically would be at the Ware Center if it wasn't for COVID, so we also thank the Ware Center and Millersville University for hosting us for all of these years. So I want to jump in a little bit into the format of today's discussion. I have provided, the Hourglass board has developed and provided questions to our county commissioners ahead of time. We've also provided all of these questions to you all, and you should have received them in your registration confirmation for this event. So we're going to go through those as well as we can. Each commissioner will have 2 minutes to respond to our first question, and then every subsequent question will allocate 2 minutes total from one commissioner. I hope they're all ready to go with these. We're ready to go here. So before we get started, down below, we'd like to have you submit all of your question and answers, your questions in the Q&A function down below. You can hit the thumbs up button to upvote those questions, and the questions with the most votes we'll get to first at the end of this discussion. So without further ado, I'd like to start by asking our first question, and that is all 3 commissioners get a chance to respond. So what keeps you up at night, and what is your proudest accomplishment in 2020?
Who do you want to start?
Why don't you go, Josh?
All right. Well, thank you, first of all, Jonathan. Thank you to Hourglass. This is something we always enjoy joining you for. We'd prefer to be in person, but hopefully we can be back in person next year. Also, thank you to the sponsors, Rogers & Associates. I can't see who's out there, but if Rick or whoever's there from the organization, we appreciate the sponsorship for this event again. So I'll start with accomplishments first. Obviously, it's been a rough year, and so maybe a little good news first. The pandemic, of course, has dominated the year. I think we're all very, very proud of our entire team. I mean, since before the pandemic arrived in the spring, county government planned, implemented, and executed what's really the most comprehensive economic recovery and medical plan in the history of Lancaster County. We've taken numerous votes to the Board of Commissioners. I don't know how many votes, over 100 throughout the year on COVID. Every one of them passed in a unanimous bipartisan manner. We certainly had our disagreements and arguments at times, but I think we've come together to confront this, along with our whole county team. We've executed on hundreds of different pieces of things, from the comprehensive PPE to organizations all across the country, nursing homes, which we'll talk about more later, the economic recovery plan, which is $42 million to small businesses across Lancaster County, together with our partners, the Chamber and the EDC. And I think our goal has been to protect lives and livelihoods across Lancaster County, and I think we've done that. What keeps me up at night? Obviously it's been a long, difficult, and divisive year in many ways. We've had many disagreements with the governor. I believe the approach has been heavy-handed and non-collaborative, both with the legislature and with counties, and that's hurt us in many ways. I think ruling by executive order has hurt us by many ways. I think that's been unproductive. It's going to take a long time to repair those relationships, and also a long time to repair this economy. And I'm very, very concerned about our restaurants, our hospitality industries. I'm very concerned about our downtowns, especially the city. And I know all of your members care about that. And, we as a community have worked together for many, many years to build up the downtown. And I believe all of that is at risk because of the restaurants, because of the convention center, which we've helped financially this year, but they're still going to be in dire straits next year. And we're going to have to continue to work together. I think we'll get through it, given the spirit of Lancaster County and our people. But it is not going to be easy going forward. So that's what has me worried. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. When I go with Craig there on my screen, it's down there. So Craig, if you want to go.
Thank you, Jonathan. So what keeps me up at night? I actually have two things that keep me up at night. But before I do that, I should also thank the Hourglass and the sponsors and everyone for taking the time to participate and join this forum today. It is unfortunate that we have to do it virtually. It's always much more fun to do it at the Fulton. So I guess we've also had it in the Ware Center over the years. I guess I've dated myself, since I think more recently it's been at the Ware Center, and a little longer term it's been at the Fulton. But either way, it's always a great event. So what keeps me up at night? I was asked this question not long ago, and my response remains the same. Folks failing to wear masks, failing to practice proper social distancing and proper personal hygiene, and failing to avoid large gatherings, and as a result, failing to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19. Unfortunately, there's still some folks not doing their part. I actually have a second thing that keeps me up at night, which is more recent. The events that unfolded at the U.S. Capitol this week keeps me up at night. For some time now, political tribalism has been infecting our nation to the point where some Democrats and some Republicans view each other as enemies and use each other as foils to hide their own political weakness and deflect attention from their own failure. As a result, our public discourse has been poisoned. When I served in the military, I and the folks I served with did not serve a political party. All of us served the United States of America. The same is true for elected officials, although some, if not many, have lost their way. As a veteran, I'm appalled by what occurred, and if this trend is not reversed, I do fear for our country. And unfortunately, I think that's going to keep me up at night for a while longer. Hopefully not too long, but I think it's going to be with us for a while. At least it's going to be with me. Regarding my proudest accomplishment of 2020, the thing that I'm most proud of in 2020 has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with county employees. The way county employees pivoted from in-person operations to remote operations was and is nothing short of extraordinary. Every resident of Lancaster County should be proud of the work that county employees have done and are doing. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Craig. Ray, you can finish us out.
Sure. And I too want to thank the Hourglass Foundation and the sponsors. As you may know, this is my first year in office, and it's been a heck of a year. And I can't help but note that I've been a frequent attendee at the Hourglass forums, and always looked forward to this one in January. And it's kind of hard to believe I'm here actually being a part of it. So, but I appreciate the opportunity. So what keeps me up at night? You're going to see and hear, I should say, a lot of similarities, I think, between the three of us. What keeps me up at night really is the idea of protecting and supporting the lives and livelihoods of over 500,000 people in Lancaster County during this challenging time with the coronavirus. The toll it's taken on our nation and here in our community has been staggering. It's not just been on health, it's been on people's well-being. And it's kind of hard not to have that weigh on you, quite frankly. The other thing it's been keeping me up at night recently is, and Commissioner Lehman mentioned this as well, the horrific events on Wednesday that unfolded, it's just staggering, quite frankly. And we need to heal as a nation and come together and move forward as a country. So that's weighing heavy on me at this time as well. In terms of proudest accomplishments, I've got real three quick ones. Just amazed at how our county team here has pivoted, as Commissioner Lehman mentioned. And not only that, but worked together. We all work together, the commissioners, the staff here, and the community. The collaboration of what we've been able to accomplish has been tremendous. It's been called a Herculean effort, and that is true. Part of that was working together as a team to put together the plan. And we received $95 million in CARES Act funds. We were one of 7 counties. Working together to put that to use in the community has been tremendous. And I can't help but think that it's made a tremendous difference in people's lives, and really proud of that. I also have to mention, I think running a highly effective election, given the challenging times. You know, the county received almost 100,000 mail-in ballots. One of our goals was to try to do our best during a general election to have results out as quickly as possible, to stay within a norm that people are used to, which is to have results, if not that night, by the next day. And we achieved that. But the effort that went into that by the staff and the community, I mean, think about this. We took over the convention center, the Freedom Hall, and had over 150 people come together to make that happen. That was tremendous. And then last, for me, I was able to pull together an interdisciplinary team to deal with some of the issues as a fallout of COVID, with people experiencing homelessness, and then also needing services such as drug and alcohol services, mental health services, but pulling a team together that's still in place today, working to help people get through this time. So a couple goals were to develop and implement strategies to offer services to individuals congregating in public areas, which will assist them in improving their well-being, and then end public use of illegal substances and other illegal activity at different parts of the city at the time, so we can have health, welfare, and safety return to those areas. And I'm really proud of that team, quite frankly.
Excellent. And thanks, Ray. And a quick note on that homeless issue. I'm just so happy to see the amount of compassion used in carrying out that work as well. That's been really wonderful to see. Want to pivot to our question on COVID. So this is the first question has one response from one commissioner for 2 minutes. So a public health department would bring some local control to public health decisions in Lancaster. What is preventing Lancaster County from creating a public health department? Josh, you have stated publicly that enacting legislation puts too many requirements on the county. What changes would need to be made to the state requirements for you to want to pursue an establishment of a public health department in Lancaster?
Well, thanks for the question. Since I'm named, I'll start. I'm guessing my colleagues may want to jump in here too, notwithstanding your rules. The underlying assertion in this question, and thank you for the question, because there's just a lot of debate over this, a lot of misunderstanding about it. The underlying assertion in the question seems to be that we don't have local control and/or our results would be better with the health department. So I'd ask the people who believe that, what is the data that supports this position? Because I hear this, but I've not seen any significant data that supports this position. I'm open to any discussion about how we can do better, but it needs to be based on data and not just assertions from out of the blue, which there have been many. Some by well-meaning people who are mistaken, some by people who maybe want more government control at the local level. But I will tell you that if there's data out there that backs up the assertions, no one that has sat down with me has, or met with me, or brought that to us, or sent that to us, has shown that. We're the 6th largest county in Pennsylvania. We're located close to the southeast where the pandemic started and where it was worse. And when we have one of the most dense concentrations of retirement nursing homes in Pennsylvania. So by all rights, we should be close to #1 in the death rate from COVID, but we're not. In fact, 24 counties have higher death rates. 4 of the 6 counties with health departments have higher death rates, some much higher. And, we have other data. There's lots of metrics that show that we've been pretty successful here. Some of that, obviously, we have many, many reasons for that. Some of that is because of our aggressive response to the nursing home outbreaks. By the way, nursing homes are 100% under the control and authority of the state, even in counties that have health departments. So we recognized early on this was going to be the center of the battle, and we stepped forward with many things, which I'll talk about in a minute. I don't know if you want to talk about nursing homes together with this question or separately, but there's a lot to talk about there. In Chester County, which has a health department, they spent $13 million on tests from a politically connected vendor that didn't work, and in fact created panic across the county with false results. So I raise that not to, criticize them just to say that there are downsides to having a health department. Some of these health departments have worse results than Lancaster County. As to the law, it's a 1950s law that governs health departments. It's old, it's clunky, it requires a large, expensive bureaucracy. I've had discussions with legislators about the fact that if you could have a small, lean operation, which would aid with data sharing, I would potentially be on board with that, but I'm not on board with spending millions of dollars for a big bureaucracy that does not get any better results. Data sharing is one thing that could certainly be improved. Early on, that data was not being shared from the state to us. It could have been, even under the current law, that was more of a collaboration issue. Commissioner D'Agostino pointed out to them in the law in a letter that they could share that data with us, and they chose not to. So unless you want to talk about nursing homes right now, I'll stop. I'm sure my colleagues probably have something to say about that too.
And just because of how I think important and on the forefront of folks' minds this question is, I'd like to maybe give the other two commissioners time, maybe a minute each to respond to this question in particular. It's an important one.
Go ahead, Ray.
Excuse me. I don't want to repeat everything that Commissioner Parsons said, because I completely agree with him on that. And I would just go on to say that I've done some research myself in this manner. And I do think that we should have some capacity here within the county to plan for public or medical health emergencies. In fact, we did bring on an advisor through a contract, and we are now actually seeking to fill a position that was created to continue that work, not just during this crisis, but into the future. So, I believe that we should have some capacity here. But I do agree that this one size fits all, this old law, needs to be changed. It's unconscionable, quite frankly, the way the state has handled this situation between the state bureaucracy and the counties. If there's any angst out there, it's because of a lack of collaboration, cooperation, and communication from the state level down to the counties. There are 67 counties. It would have not been very hard to actually work with us, in whether by region or individually, through Zoom calls like this. You probably got more than 67 people on here, that we can have a conversation and work together to get through this. And that's not what happened. Think about all the shutdowns that happened. Think about how guidance was put out by the state that either immediately had to be walked back or had to be altered, because there wasn't that kind of conversation amongst the different groups to figure out how we get through this, so that we could actually work with our citizens here in Lancaster County. If we do change the law, it should allow for a smaller, more flexible and dynamic health capacity, that we work with the state and in our community to make sure that we do take care of our citizens. And I'll leave it at that.
Thanks. Craig?
Sorry, I'm trying to stay muted.
It's okay.
Well, you never know. I don't know if you saw my daughter run by here a few minutes ago. She doesn't know she was on video, but she came in the corner. I don't know if anybody else saw her, but I did.
It's all right.
The county did recently create a public health emergency position within the Lancaster Emergency Management Agency. I actually supported the creation of that position. While the creation of this position confirms my comments from earlier this year that the county COVID-19 response was delayed due to the lack of a county public health department, I maintain that a county public health department is still needed in Lancaster County. Right now, for all intents and purposes, LGH is functioning as the county public health department. Going forward, what I think we should do is we should engage LGH and local public health stakeholders to determine the proper size and scope of a county public health department. I want it to be as efficient and effective as possible and to be responsible with taxpayer dollars. At this point, we as a community should engage with the state to determine to determine what the state law requires related to a public health department and compare that to what is needed locally. Maybe the engagement with LGH and local public health stakeholders tells us that the state law is adequate for us in terms of the kind of county public health department that we need moving forward. Maybe that engagement with LGH and other local public health stakeholders says that we need some additional flexibility from the state in terms of the type of local county public health department that we need. But we need to do this together and collaboratively with the folks that are acting as our public health department right now. From my perspective, I think one thing COVID-19 has taught us that the need for a county public health department isn't going to get any less going forward. It's only going to get greater. And if we do need to, go to the state and say, hey, we need some flexibility to do what we think we need here in Lancaster County, I'm okay with that. But I don't think there should be any equivocation on the need for a public health department. We need to finally roll up our sleeves and get this work done because, quite frankly, it's long overdue in Lancaster County. I think the first time I have voiced support for a county public health department was back in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. And I just think of all the things that we might have been able to do had we had something in place before COVID hit. So that's my comments for today. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. I'm going to break my own rule here. I can do that because I'm running this meeting. Larry Zook submitted a question that I think would be good to ask here. The Chester County is able to begin providing COVID vaccinations to its residents more effectively because it has a public health department. Public health department has been recommended in Lancaster County. What additional data is needed to convince the commissioners that it's important to take advantage of a public health department? You can respond to that, probably Josh, in a couple minutes here. We want to keep our responses short.
Well, in short, that's not true. The vaccines right now are flowing from the federal government largely to the end users, the hospitals and the nursing homes, and there is some involvement with the state. But even in counties that have health departments, they are not involved in the vaccine distribution right now, with the one exception of Philadelphia Health Department, which is the largest in the state. And at some point, all counties will be involved in vaccine distribution. That's when we get to the point where we're going to be doing larger amounts and mass distribution to anyone who wants it. And we will be doing that through our emergency management team, which already has a plan for that. So this is part of the misinformation that Larry and some other people have been putting out. You need to be very careful about what you claim and whether it's true before you claim it, because it's not helpful to the public debate or discourse when you claim something that is not accurate. And the health departments in, for instance, Chester County, they're putting up information about vaccination, but they're taking it directly from the state's website and essentially cutting and pasting it. So I'm willing to have this debate, and we all are willing to do things better. If we've made mistakes or can do things better, we're open to it, but I'm not willing to do it based on misinformation.
Jonathan, if I could, I just want to comment a little bit on vaccination. I mean, Commissioner Parsons is correct that right now there is no vaccines coming directly to the county. What you have to do is, if you're an organization that's going to receive and administer vaccination, you have to enroll at the state level, and then once you're approved by the state, then you can receive and administer vaccination. A lot of that has to do with each individual vaccination and the physical requirements in terms of the ability to manage that vaccination, those vaccines. But what a county public health department could be doing in this particular instance is that the enrollment process that the state is doing right now, if you go and look at the list of folks that have received vaccines here in Lancaster County, it's only showing enrolled organizations that have actually received vaccination. It does not currently show, although the County Commissioners Association have been pushing for it, to actually show all the organizations that have been enrolled. And why is that important? Because as we move forward to try to make sure that everybody who wants a vaccination can get vaccinated, to make sure that we're reaching hard to reach populations, who is enrolled and where they're administering that vaccination is going to become extraordinarily important in making sure that we reach hard to reach populations. That's a role that a county public health department could and should be doing. I don't know what Chester County is doing, but that is definitely, from my perspective, a role that the county health department could be doing, because I'm absolutely certain that the state is not doing that kind of outreach in each individual county to make sure that folks are being enrolled so we can reach hard to reach populations.
And Jonathan, if I could just have 30 seconds, you don't need a public health department for that. You don't need a large, unelected, unaccountable body to do that. And you're going to see that actually start here in Lancaster County. We're going to start having a conversation how we as a county can start playing a role in helping that. You don't need a health department for that.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for your response to that question. Next one, and I want one response from one commissioner for 2 minutes, just so we can get to these. Lancaster County experienced over 750 deaths from COVID, with many of these occurring in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. What will we do to ensure that those populations who are vulnerable are protected in the future?
I'll start. I don't know if we're going to be able to stick to your rule because we all have our own thoughts on these, but we early on authorized testing across nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities for all residents and staff. We were the only county, I think, at the time to do that. We were the first county to execute a pretty bold plan to assist nursing homes. Again, 100% within the purview of the state, but we realized, especially since we had the funds from the federal government, that we needed to step up and do everything that we can. A similar program was later adopted by the state that looked very much like ours. We authorized emergency management staff to hire a company to provide infection control and training to all the nursing homes who wanted it across the county. Again, the state adopted a similar program. We provided direct financial assistance to the nursing homes. This was based on something I had seen Florida do with the National Guard. We created basically strike teams to go out and deep clean nursing homes. No other county in the state was doing that at the time. The state again did something similar. We provided emergency planning to nursing homes. Emergency medical advisor worked with them and convened with them regularly. Even the governor's administration, who obviously we've had very serious differences with, said that, Lancaster County's done an excellent job fighting COVID-19. We have nursing homes that have management that has counties throughout the state. And, one of them recently told us that Lancaster County's done more than any other county for nursing homes. So I think our response has been aggressive. Obviously, you have lessons learned from what you could do differently or better. I think, there are so many different kinds of nursing homes in Lancaster County. Some have more resources than others. And I think an even greater focus on those that had less resources or that were really densely populated closely together. That was the problem early on. I think there's some lessons learned from that. But I'm very, very proud of our response to nursing homes across Lancaster County. It's been unmatched by any other county in the state.
Great. Thanks, Josh. I'm going to go to our next question, and that is on county-owned properties. The county owns property throughout the county, but mostly in the city of Lancaster, including the courthouse, the prison, and the office building on North Queen Street. Because county-owned land is not taxable by a local municipality, how is the city of Lancaster and other municipalities that have county-owned properties compensated for services it provides to county-owned property, specifically public safety services?
I'll take that one if my colleagues don't mind. So it is accurate that government property, federal, state, and local are not taxable. Any change to allow that would require new statutory authority, probably at both the federal and the state level. Additionally, I'm not aware of any mechanism for local governments to compensate each other for services provided by governments within a particular municipality. Regarding county support for the city of Lancaster, Lancaster County has provided shared IT services to the city of Lancaster. The county also participates in the city's tax increment financing district and LERTA program. The county also provided a grant to help with Central Market Roof Project. The county also provided a loan to help the Lancaster Barnstormers Clipper Stadium. The county also provides a grant to the DID. It is true that the DID grant has been level funded for some time, and I would favor increasing that grant to more accurately reflect the assessed value of county property within the DID.
Thanks, Craig. Next question is on the prison in Lancaster. So there's been much talk of replacing the prison located on East King Street. All three of you serve as a prison board. In that capacity, how will the county replace the current prison? In re-examining the current criminal justice system, have you found a need to build one new site, or are you considering multiple sites that might serve different purposes? For example, one site for mental behavioral health, or one for women, one for nonviolent offenders, and 2 minutes on that question.
Well, this is something, as all your members know, that has been discussed for many, many years and is still being discussed. And, we were very focused on one, making sure that the physical plan of the property that we have was in, usable shape, although it's very difficult given its age. The original prison was built in the 1850s and then added on to it. And two, doing everything we can within the current property to have good programs and to reduce the population, which we did. At its high, the population was around 1,300. It's now in the 600. So there's no other county that's safely reduced its population in that way. Once we did that, and also, I was a big believer that we need to get our financial house in order. We're doing that. We're on track to pay down $100 million in debt from the county at its high. We've raised our bond rating. We've increased our savings significantly so that we could then have a conversation about long-term big capital projects. I think everyone on the Board of Commissioners and everyone on the prison board has stated publicly that they believe a new prison is going to be needed at some point in the future, fairly soon, probably, short to midterm, because of the amount of money that we're spending to keep this old facility up, and it's just not suitable anymore. The first step that you will see publicly is when, the county, as we move forward, is if the county comes to some kind of land acquisition or real estate deal, because that's the first step in the process. And we can't discuss that publicly because it would not be fair to the taxpayers, because as soon as you discuss that publicly, it skews the real estate market. So that will be the first sign that something, if and when it happens, is happening. And, I'll turn it over to my colleagues. I think we're all very aligned on this for any comments they might have.
I'll just say that, your question about multiple sites, let me tell you, it's tough enough to find a site regardless of what you're doing in municipal government, but citing a prison, that's going to be tough just to find one site. But a lot of this is going to be driven, form and function are going to be driven by the work that needs to be done. So the things you mentioned, we are looking at. Whether you have one facility or multiple facilities, what's important is that those functions happen. That way, with a new facility, we'll be able to have state-of-the-art, up-to-date services with the facility or facilities, as it may be. So, and speaking of that, I'm going to jump ahead to the next one. And, again, in terms of what it looks like, really, you got to look about where it's going to be located. I mean, quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, if we're doing our job right, you really shouldn't know it's there, because as soon as you it's there, that means you've got problems in terms of people in the neighborhood not being too fond of it being there. And so, if you do your job right, you really shouldn't know that it's there, and that's number one. So it really depends on where the location is. And then the second thing is, again, what's the functionality of it? We got to be more important about that. So pride to me in a facility has more to do with making sure that we're taking care of public safety, that justice is being done and served, and that people are safe in the facility, and that we reduce recidivism. If we can accomplish all those things in the facility, I'll be really proud about that. If there is an opportunity to have some kind of ideas on design, hey, I think we'd be open to that. But those for me are the priorities.
Yeah, and that the question that Ray is referring to is if the commissioners and the prison board would entertain potentially doing a sort of competition for design of the prison, whether it and that thought is much more on form as opposed to and function as opposed to form. So there's a great article in Architectural Digest about that, and folks can check out Hourglass's past publications for that information. So Craig, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you didn't interrupt me. No, it's perfectly fine. I just have some really brief comments regarding the county jail. As some folks may recall and some folks may not, it's not too long ago that there was an operational analysis done to determine if it was more efficient to operate one facility or two smaller facilities. It was determined because of that analysis that it's more efficient to operate one facility. So my sense is that analysis still holds true today, and probably even more so, quite frankly. And with that in mind, I don't support a multi-facility approach to replacing the current functionally obsolete county jail. And in terms of the second question, regarding cash awards for innovative designs, my focus right now is site selection. To me, that has to be the number one priority. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of opportunities to discuss and debate the design of any new facility after this critical first step is taken, because I think everybody knows implicitly that the site will determine what you can build and how you can build and the cost of building it. So the site selection is very critical, and Commissioner D'Agostino alluded to it earlier. It's not easy to find a site for a new jail. So assuming we could find a site that the public would be accepting of, and I think there is a site that is a possibility for that to be able to happen. To me, that has to be the priority right now. I'm not going to say that I'm going to be, vocal in opposition to, innovative designs, but I got to be honest with you. I agree with Commissioner D'Agostino. It's really not a priority right now. I think site selection is the number one priority right now.
Thank you. And I know that there's some aspects of site selection you can't talk about, but what are some of the factors that go into site selection? Being close to bus lines so that folks can get to services and around. Is there anything that you can share about that?
I think, as a general matter, anytime you're selecting a site for a prison, it has to be close to the courthouse for transportation purposes, because it's running back and forth, and you would normally want something that's convenient to most of the county for the criminal justice agencies, for police agencies. I think anybody can sort of figure that out. So,
yeah, okay, sounds good. So last, one of the questions we have too is about planning and the planning department Partners for Place. So how will the county work with municipalities to ensure smart growth zoning and land use practices encouraged in Places 2040, our comprehensive plan in the county, are observed?
So I'll take that one initially here. As many of you know, I used to serve on the Planning Commission and also the Transportation Coordinating Committee. I still served up until becoming a commissioner on some of the Partners for Place committees as well. And I could say the way you do this, quite frankly, is through extensive community engagement, and then also helping communities do things that they couldn't do on their own. So for instance, data collection and analysis. And of course, the County Planning Commission and Planning Department are really advisory roles. And if you will, can provide services to the communities that help implement the county's comprehensive plan and the policies and the goals, objectives. So there's a lot of robust conversation happening in the community. So holding workshops, developing potentially model ordinances, again, doing that data research. Those are all things that can be done. The other thing that can be done is making sure that all of our county departments and agencies are aware of the county's comprehensive plan, and that they're in tune to ensuring that, to the degree that it's appropriate, that the work that is being done within those agencies, that there's consistency there. So think about, for instance, housing. We have a housing redevelopment authority. Is the work they're doing and the funding that they're putting out there, is it consistent with the county's comprehensive plan? And working with them to make sure that that's happening. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, again, pulling the community together in a collaborative way and providing those services. And in some cases, having communities come together to form it within the region to implement either comprehensive plans, official maps, or whatever. Those are things that our county planning commission and department are working on. So that's what I would say at this point.
Excellent. Thanks, Ray. And the next question is, I think, a little bit related to that is, are there any incentives that you can provide to municipalities to adopt Places 2040 as a plan? As the county doesn't have the authority to adopt those plans for those municipalities. They have to choose to be a part of that comprehensive planning process. Is there any incentives out there or any being considered for that?
Well, if you don't mind, I'll just say that it's really an extension of what I just mentioned.
Yep.
So local municipalities don't adopt county comprehensive plan. What they do is, and what we all do together, is make sure that they're generally consistent. So when new comprehensive plans are being developed, and a lot of times we're at the table with those municipalities, and quite frankly, zoning ordinances and other land use ordinances that implement the county comprehensive, the local comprehensive plan or regional comprehensive plan, we are providing input at that stage up until adoption as to ensuring that there is that consistency and giving ideas. And then in terms of incentives, again, that's an incentive that working together as between municipalities and the county. When we put out grants or any of our agencies put out funding, we're making sure, and there's comment and review on the general consistency. And by and large, there is, and that's a good thing. So it's a continuous process.
I want to just tip my hat to Scott Standish for all the hard work he's done on implementing this Places 2040 plan throughout the county. It's been neat to be a partner for Place as Hourglass and help guide that. So one final question before we get to question and answers, and that is, there's a study done by the American Farmland Trust that says that pocket development, so non-contiguous land development, is the largest threat to farmland. So I would imagine that that's partially a threat here in Lancaster County as well. So how will we protect farmland while simultaneously accommodating for Lancaster's projected population growth? Are those two mutually exclusive?
Josh, you want to take that one now, initially?
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I mean, we have the leading farmland preservation program in the nation, and this board has been committed to it. We can continue to contribute millions of dollars to it, which then leverages state and sometimes federal money. So we're very, very committed to farmland preservation, and we believe it's not mutually exclusive, that we can have growth, we can have a vibrant county, and at the same time preserve our productive farmland. And also, I think an increasingly a focus on not just farmland, but also forest land, and obviously Conservancy doing great work there. And I think that, COVID has shown that people want places to do outdoor recreation, and I think we're very committed to all of that.
Great.
Yeah, the other side of that is, again, going back to Places 2040 and what we heard from the public, an unprecedented, quite frankly, outpouring of comment and input on the adoption of the comprehensive plan. And that is, we've got to grow smarter, right? We can do smart, we can do farmland preservation like we're doing the tops of the nation, as the commissioner said. We also have to work smarter in terms of development. And I think that the Places 2040 does a really good job, better than the previous comprehensive plan, quite frankly, in looking at where growth is a good thing, where it's appropriate, and the type of growth based on the facilities and the land that's there, and then working again as a community to put policies in place that can maximize that land and the development that would be put there in a smart way. It doesn't overly impact that area. And so we can have our cake and eat it too, as we are really alluding to. It can be done. I think we're doing pretty well. We can do better, but it's again working together to implement the comprehensive plan.
Thanks, Ray.
Real quickly, I'm just going to make a few comments on that. No, I don't think it's mutually exclusive. I do think that when Lancaster County first established urban growth areas years ago, that helped mitigate some of the pocket development that I think you're referring to. I don't think that there hasn't been any pocket development here in Lancaster County, because I'm certain that that's not the case. But I think because of the long-term view that Lancaster County has had in terms of urban and village growth areas and farmland preservations has helped to mitigate some of that. One of the things that we look for when we're trying to preserve a farm with the Ag Preserve Board here in Lancaster County, we're always looking to preserve clusters of farms, because preserving cluster of farms actually creates agricultural capacity within a particular municipality, which then provides additional protection for agriculture in that particular area. So if you take a look at the farmland preservation map, which includes both what the Ag Preserve Board has done and what the Farmland Trust has done, I think what you're going to find is much of the farmland preservation that we've done in Lancaster County has been done with intent to do in a clustered way to try and help deal with some of the issues that you're referring to. Ray mentioned the county comprehensive plan. You know, when you look at Places 2040 and you see the developable land that's still remaining here in Lancaster County and the population increase that's expected over the next 20 years of about 100,000 additional people coming here in Lancaster County, the plan says that we can deal with the growth that's going to occur as a result of that population increase if we're smart about it, if we're intentional about it, if we take a look at our urban and village growth areas and make sure that we're directing growth where it should be most appropriate, where it should most appropriately occur, and also try to boost our density. If I recall correctly, and Ray, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the Places 2040 comprehensive plan also provides for not a one-size-fits-all as far as density is concerned, which has created some problems previously, because sometimes the one-size-fits-all density approach may not be fit well within a village growth area where it might fit well more in a developed suburb, if you will. So I think there's a lot of things to like about Places 2040. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do, and it's not going to happen by accident. We're going to have to work in collaboration with municipalities to try and make sure that, you know, if urban and village growth areas get adjusted, they're adjusted properly and that they're zoned properly. And so growth can be directed where it's most appropriately can occur. And then also, we're going to have to continue to have a strong farmland preservation program if we're going to continue to make sure that agriculture becomes agriculture continues to be sustainable here in Lancaster County.
Thank you. I want to skip our last question on traffic and get to some questions asked by those in attendance. You may submit questions still in the Q&A function. Appreciate the commissioners so far and their willingness to address some of these questions. A question from Ethan Demi, who is a East Lampeter Township supervisor. At the end of 2019, Lancaster County had a $134 million other post-employment benefit that is unfunded. What is the plan to fund this liability?
So the county has a couple different kinds of post-retirement benefits. One is the county pension plan, which is required under state law of all counties. Our pension, as recorded in our last comprehensive annual review, is 100% funded. The second piece is what Ethan is talking about with this OPEB. It's basically the county used to provide and ended, and Craig or Ray can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it ended in, it was shortened in 2010 and then ended completely in like 2015, this program where retirees could receive health benefits. So that is funded rather than by a plan. It's funded yearly. We just pay it yearly as part of our budget, and it can be ended at any time. Unlike a pension, it could just be ended at any time. We did end it. So that is self-liquidating, a self-liquidating problem. Basically, meaning the further we get in time, the less that the more that is coming down. So that will eventually totally go away.
Thanks, Ethan, for your question.
If I could just comment on that a little bit, and my colleagues or Ethan can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the liability that Ethan is referring to began showing up in our financial statements relatively recently. I can't remember when exactly it occurred. It might be 1, it might be 2, it might be 3 years, but the liability that he's referring to showed up recently. And if I'm not mistaken, it was because of GASB 73 and 74. It was the change in reporting for public entities in terms of how they were accounting for their post-employment benefits liability. The difficulty with what GASB did is that they are basically equating OPEB benefits with pension benefits. And to me, I disagree with what GASB did, because what they're really saying is that OPEB benefits are contractual just like pension benefits, and therefore the liability should be reflected the same as pension benefits. I don't think GASB got it right in that particular instance, because as Commissioner Parsons indicated, OPEB benefits are pay-as-you-go. They're not the same as pension benefits. Pension benefits aren't pay-as-you-go. So I think that now that liability is reflected in our financial statements, I think it creates a lot of confusion on the parts of some folks who may not understand what post-employment benefits really mean and how they're actually paid for. Some folks are looking at this as a legacy cost, like a pension benefit, which it's really not. Some of the things that we've talked about over there we haven't done is that we could start putting our OPEB costs on an annual basis in a fund, and that would reduce the liability that shows up on the financial statements, which really wouldn't change anything, which I think speaks volumes about what GASB did and why it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
That's right. I agree with all that.
Jess King submitted a question, Chief of Staff Tamir Sirachi of the City of Lancaster. Have you tried to collaborate with the State Department of Health to find solutions at work? The city actively lobbied Department of Health to allow for contact tracing under the City Board of Health, and they allowed it.
Yes, we've had very little collaboration with the Department of Health.
Yeah, I've actually talked to the governor's office and didn't get very far, quite frankly.
I want to do a shout out for the city here. My understanding is that because of collaboration between the city and LGH was really gave the county the ability to contract with LGH for contact tracing and testing here in Lancaster County, which put us far ahead of other counties here in Lancaster County. And it was a very good use of our CARES Act funding. So Jess can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the process that ended up making sure that Lancaster County could have its own contact tracing and testing program here in Lancaster County.
Yeah, I think that's true. It was a part of those conversations. But again, goes to show you don't need a public health department. We can work together, quite frankly, to make stuff like that happen. Again, it's about collaboration, cooperation, and communication with the state. And, you know, it took a lot to actually get them to do that. But in other areas of working together, it's just not been very good.
Sorry to hear that. So one question, and I want to ask that it not become political in a response. So in Lancaster County,
maybe you shouldn't ask it.
Thank you. So in Lancaster County, we've been so fortunate to have great leadership in elections. What do we look at going forward to ensure folks have faith in what we do with the election? I feel very confident that the votes I casted this November were counted, and love to have that continue going forward.
I'm sure we'll all have something to say. I'll start. And as far as it not being political, you have three politicians, but we all do get along.
I know what I'm asking. Sorry.
But you'll probably have, maybe three different points of view. It's a good question. And one, thank you. Ray was chair of the election board, and we had just a phenomenal election team. It was incredibly difficult year, and they bent over backwards to run a transparent, fair election in Lancaster County. But the discussion is an important one. And so when we discuss illegal activity, one thing that gets confused is there's three potential buckets. There's hacking, which did not occur with this election, nationally. It didn't occur in 2016 either, really. That's basically when Russia or somebody hacks into the system. People said it did in 2016. It did not. Then there's fraud, which is like dead people voting or other stuff. And then there's a third bucket, which is I call game playing or irregularities. And Act 77 of 2019, which is the mail-in voting law, which was passed by Republicans and Democrats in the state, made elections a lot more difficult for us to run logistically. So you're basically running an in-person election and then a huge mail-in election too. It's orders of magnitude more difficult and more complicated. I was concerned about this law and opposed it, frankly, before it was passed. And after it was passed, I still think there's very troubling aspects to it. There are many, many more opportunities for fraud under Act 77. I'm not going to discuss them publicly, but there's ways that could be problematic. That doesn't mean there's fraud, but there's more opportunities for it. And then there were statewide, there were significant irregularities, things that have never occurred in any prior election. For example, we were not allowed by the courts to check signatures on any of these nearly 100,000 mail-in ballots. That is the way that you do confirm someone's identity. We were not allowed to do that. So even if there was fraud, you really have no way to know that. There was a 3-day addition to the ballots coming in that was added by the courts. I believe you need a hard black and white end date for ballots to come in. They allowed no postmark on ballots. The Secretary of State, and there's been very little discussion about this, but the Secretary of State sent out guidance to counties to break the law, which was to release information during the pre-canvass operation to cure ballots. That's illegal. It's very clear in the law. Some counties did this, mostly in the Southeast. Most counties did not do this. So this created a two-tiered election system. Then we had drop boxes, which were never contemplated in the law. We had one, which was right in our county government center with the sheriffs watching it, but some counties set them up all over the county. There was illegal activity in almost every one of these drop boxes. That was because a lot of people just didn't know that they couldn't bring their spouse's ballot in and put it in the drop box. That's illegal. That's understandable. It's a new law. But there was also reports of people collecting up many, many ballots and bringing them in and putting them in. That's illegal just because you don't want other people handling the ballots. You don't know what they're doing to them. So all of these things are irregularities, and they all should be discussed and debated going forward because you want the loser to have confidence that it was a fair election. And I know people can just dismiss that and say Trump, telling people don't believe the election results. But if we want to have a system going forward where everyone believes in the result, you've got to have a discussion and a debate over these things. And you can't just dismiss them out of hand because your team won. If you remember in Iraq, with the first elections they had after the Saddam Hussein regime fell, the images that came out of that was a person with blue ink on their finger. Well, why did we do that in Iraq when America was overseeing those elections? Because it was one person, one vote, and it was all in-person voting. And that was to make sure everyone felt like it was a fair system, even if their candidate lost. And I'm not saying we need to do that, but I'm saying it is appropriate to have debate with both sides of the aisle on how it is appropriate to run elections so everybody believes it's a fair system, even when you lose. And that has not really occurred. So thank you.
I want to reiterate my appreciation for how Lancaster County's elections were run. I did feel confident, and I think communication about that success of how we ran it here is, I think, appropriate going forward. Thanks, Ray, for heading that effort up. So we're pretty much out of time here today. We've had a really lively discussion. We've covered a lot of topics, and I'm sure
for the record, I would have had different comments than Commissioner Parsons.
Yes.
Maybe we could have a whole day just on elections, because I'm quite sure he would, and Ray would too, probably.
Yeah.
That might have to be another format other than the Hourglass nonpartisan nonprofit here in Lancaster County. So appreciate the time that you all took, Commissioner Parsons, Commissioner DiAgostino, Commissioner Lehman. Appreciate all of your responses. It's been wonderful talking to you all. Again, I want to reiterate our thanks to Rogers and Associates for sponsoring this event. Very appreciative of their support. We look forward to next month. We have on the elected official circuit, we have Mayor Sirachi on February 5th. Friday, February 5th, Mayor Sirachi will join us for a conversation about the city of Lancaster and exciting things happening here. So thank you so much again for taking time today. We really appreciate it and look forward to next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.